Hello snowboarders of the internet, I am your host TC and today I will be reviewing the Yes All In. This board is equipped with Yes's Camrock 141 profile, so what that means is you're going to have a long camber zone in between your feet with a short bit of rocker on the nose and the tail. What that's going to do is that's going to give you all the drive, power, and pop you're looking for out of that camber with ease of entry in and out of turns and a little bit better float on the nose and the tail. This board comes in a 148, a 150, a 154, a 155 wide, a 158, a 160 wide, a 162, and a 164 wide. I rode this board at Copper Mountain where it was a spring pow day. We got about 8 to 10 inches the night before and it stayed pretty flat light all day, so that snow really didn't change consistency throughout. As long as you were at the top of the mountain, the snow was perfect Colorado snow, that light fluffy stuff. As you worked your way down, it did get pretty heavy, that wet snow, but honestly it didn't change throughout the day, so what you got in the morning is what you got in the afternoon as well. I used my Ride Fuse boots and Jones Mercury bindings. Even though this board doesn't have a ton of rocker on the nose and tail, it is still going to be a softer board. It's still coming in at below that middle of the road stiffness, I would say, where you can really flex into this thing. When you're in the fresh snow, you feel that nose flexing up just to keep you afloat. And when we go into the stability portion, it's not going to be the most stable, especially in that beat up conditions out there where you're getting bounced around. It's definitely a board you're going to want to stay low on, keep those knees bent, be powerful. When you're in fresh snow, however, it is extremely stable where this thing floats. Even when I was creeping through the trees, that nose just popped right up and I didn't have to worry about it like trying to sink or anything like that. The first thing I noticed when I popped on groomers is it really didn't return that energy too well. I thought maybe it would just because there is less rocker in the tail, but since it is overall a softer board, it really didn't have that much energy to spring back, where a lot of it was coming from that back foot. Now, when we get into like fresh powder pops or fresh powder ollies, I should say, it was a completely different story. This nose actually created a lip there in the fresh snow where it gave something for this tail to spring off of, where I felt it actually ollies better in fresh powder than it does on the groomers. So take that as you will, but honestly, it felt really good in powder. Like it landed extremely well where this nose, just like I mentioned before, it wants to float. So even if you do land a little bit more bolts on this thing, that nose really wants to just pop right up, where I didn't have any problems. Even if I ollied into a little patch of trees or something like that, I was able to land and just kind of wiggle right through. While I have you here, you might as well like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any reviews for your favorite boards or bindings out there. Since this board is on the softer side, it butters really well. It was super fun to butter in the fresh powder where I could just throw a 180 in, lean a little bit on this nose, and trust that it is gonna press and be able to hold. It's not gonna have the most spring on the way out, so you're gonna end up doing a little bit more extra work there, but really it wasn't too bad. It didn't throw up really any of a fight, whether I was buttering or pressing on the nose or the tail. It just felt nice and simple where I could shift my hips, just have them slightly outside the inserts on both sides really, and it was gonna hold me. There was no fight to it. It was just a nice smooth press, especially in powder. That I cannot stress that enough. It is so much fun to butter in powder. Carving this board in fresh pow, it can handle any size carve extremely well. It is the most stable in those conditions. When you get it to the groomers or those more chewed up conditions, it's not gonna carve quite as well, I'll say, where you go to get on that edge and you're gonna feel that nose flapping a little bit, possibly even that tail, especially on those medium and larger carves. When you're on those short carves though, it'll get edge to edge fast enough for you where that mid bite is definitely helping engage that edge a little bit faster. And it will Euro carve. Just try not to put too much energy into this thing. It'll just fold on you. So keep it nice and mellow and you're gonna have a great time carving this. Rider in mind. This board is for that mellow rider out there. They don't have to be the most skilled or anything, where it's honestly more of that rad dad ripper board where they're going out there with the kids. They need something that's gonna float and pow for them, and they're gonna be able to take it on those mellow runs and not have to worry about is this thing gonna turn over? Is it gonna be too much? Am I gonna run my kid over? Anything like that. They can just cruise on this thing and have a good time. Are you looking for another way to get involved? If so, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. I could explain it here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. I really enjoyed this board. It was that mellow POW board that I actually had a great time on. Rode this thing all day and was like, yeah, this thing was awesome. I expected maybe having to change out a board just because maybe this thing isn't gonna handle all that deep snow, but it just crushed right through it. Super fun. Like, I wish they had the parks plowed that day because it would have been fun to try to hit jumps on this thing or even grease some rails up, but you know, Copper enjoys POW days and so does their park crew. Comparable boards, the Libtech Double Dip, the Jones Mind Expander, and the Salomon 6-Stick. Recommended bindings, the Yes Select, the Salomon Hologram, and the Union Ultra. This has been my review for the Yes All In. Since I have you here, you might as well check out one of the reviews for any of our other boards or bindings.